you how to cook some things healthy. A couple things, I'm going to see how this works talking to the mic while I'm cooking, but you know, it's not all about completely changing your diet always. And again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian, I'm a cook. But the moderation side of things is what you really need to look at. I'm using pork today. If you've gotten the menu or the recipe, you can see that. Pork, most people think that's the worst thing in the world you could be doing to help your heart. This is a lean piece of pork. It's the tenderloin. It's a least used muscle. It has virtually no fat in it. Perfect. What am I doing? I'm not giving you an 8-ounce portion. It's about 3 to 4 ounces. It's half of that. What am I bulking you up on? Vegetables and fruit, which are the thing that you want to do here. So I'll go ahead and get started here. It's a pretty quick, pretty easy process to do this. It's basically, you're taking the pork here, you can saute it. One of the things you want to do with that is make sure that the pork is dried off a little bit, otherwise it's not going to brown, it's going to be gray. Many people don't realize why that is, but that's one of the reasons. The other reason, many times the store-bought pork that you have is jacked up with saline solution, which is basically what? Salt, right? So I'm not going to use much of any salt. The pork that we work with at Wake Tech, we're buying organic pork. There's no additives, there's nothing shot into it or anything else. So it's a lot better for you, but most people don't have that luxury to do and buy, you know, a whole pig or a side of pork or something to try and butcher that. The things you buy in the store generally have that added to it, mainly for flavor because of how they're raised, and that's another day. So anyway, this is pork tenderloin. As I said, I've already pre-sliced this, and one thing that you may or may not be able to see from where you are is one of the ends of pork has this silver piece on here. It's not fat, but it is something that will definitely make the meat tough. So you want to remove that, and it's a very easy process. I'm going to do it off the board, but you can certainly use the cutting board. But you're just going to stick your knife right up underneath there and slide that off, slide that through, and that'll come right off for you. Okay? So that's just one little trick there. The other thing, as I said, is I'm drying the pork out a little bit. I've got a couple that I've already trimmed out, so that'll help. And I'm just putting that on a piece of paper there to allow that to dry up a little bit. I'm going to fire up the grill here. And then I'm going to go ahead and start with production here. As I said, I'm not going to put much salt on here. I'm going to put a little bit, but not very much on the pork itself. I'm also making a vinaigrette. And most vinaigrettes, the rule that we teach at the school is the classic vinaigrette is made of 3 parts of oil to 1 part vinegar. I've basically reversed that. If you look at the recipe there, you can see that's a little bit different from what I just told you. And you know, the nice thing, vinegars add so much more flavor. I'm also using extra virgin olive oil in that, which is low cholesterol, it's natural. That's something you definitely want to look at. If you can't handle that heavy flavor, you can certainly buy lighter olive oils. But the olive oil is one of those things, and we heard about the Mediterranean diet. That's one of the things that is found to help is to use that olive oil or the non-saturated oil. I do have that right here, so what I do with this, instead of, I think the recipe actually says to put the oil in the pan. I just take a little bit and put it on each piece of meat. It takes a couple extra seconds, but you're using a whole lot less when you do it this way. And you can actually take them and rub them together and use even less on there. If it's something that you're really concerned about, which, you know, if you want to eat healthy, this is how I do it at home. I've been touched by heart disease in my family through my dad's side. So this is one thing that we made a conscious effort to change in our home, is to eat a lot more healthily And again, we haven't really changed what we buy, it's how we buy and how much of each thing we do buy. So there's our pork. Good hot pan. If you don't have a hot pan, if you just throw this in a cold pan, what are you going to hear? Nothing. You want to hear, I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but a nice little sizzle in there. And let those go. And depending on the size, I put 4 minutes on there. It might take 3 if you like it a little bit more rare, which nowadays it's okay with pork. Remember that the trichinosis thing is not necessarily something you need to worry about. I eat mine medium. Medium well is certainly fine. If you can't handle it that way, by all means, cook it all the way through, which would be that 4 minutes per side there. I'm going to go ahead and put this vinaigrette together real quick. As I have in there, red wine vinegar, raspberry vinegar, balsamic vinegar is great in this salad. And again, it's just the 3 tablespoons there. The orange juice goes in with that. I'm going to go ahead and pop in the olive oil, and again, half the amount. So it's very little bit in with that. A little bit of pepper, a little bit more salt in this, and again, a little bit, not a lot. And then what you're going to want to do here is create an emulsion. All an emulsion is, you're taking 2 liquids that don't normally mix together and you're forcing them together. And you just take that and whisk that in like this. Naturally, this will separate. So you want to do this right before you serve the salad also, is kind of whisk that together and get that pulled together. Otherwise, all the vinegar is going to go to the bottom, all the oil is going to go to the top, and it's going to sit like that. Get these turned over for you. And you can see maybe a little bit of color. And they're staying on the pan too. That's even better. Wait, it's right out there. Yes, chefs are serious, but we love what we do. We have fun with it. So we can be pretty good comedians at times there also. Fresh spinach. What I suggest on this is I try to avoid clamshell spinach or pre-bagged spinach. That stuff, you hear about all this salmonella and all this norovirus and all the E. coli and all that kind of stuff going on. Again, it's my feeling there's something in that pre-packaged stuff that I just don't like. So I buy loose spinach. At Wake Tech, we have to buy that larger just because, or the package just because of the amount that we go through. At home, you're not going to need that big bag. Most of the times that stuff goes bad, or part of it does, unless you're serving a large group. So that goes in there. I'm going to take the pear here. And I'm only making 1 serving, so we only need about 1/4 of a pear here. If you want to put more in, you can. The other thing is, you can use apples in here. It's fine. This happens to be a Bosc pear. You can use Danjou pear. You can use Bartlett pear. It really doesn't matter. You're putting fruit in there. It's good stuff for you. I've also got golden raisins. You can use regular dark raisins. You can use dried cranberries. You can use any dried fruits in there. You can use fresh fruits. It just happens to be this is what it is for this particular recipe. I also am using blue cheese, and again, people go, cheese, you gotta be kidding me. It's blue cheese. These types of cheese, these aged cheese, tend to be a little bit lower in fat, not a lot. But again, I'm not using 2 full ounces here. I'm only using like a tablespoon and a half or a teaspoon and a half, which really isn't a whole lot in the scheme of things here. It's about 1/4 of an ounce if you wanted to weigh that out. So that's pork's done here. And another thing that the recipe says, once again, that I'm going to contradict a little bit, and that is that you put everything on the plate and then put the dressing over. I like to mix it in a little bit. It gets it all coated. You don't have to sit there and play around with it on your plate or anything. So just take that, put a little bit over the salad. And I'm going to reserve just a little bit because in go the pears, and in go the raisins in here. And once again, why? We're just kind of distributing the flavors more than anything else. Might seem like a bit of an extra step, but that'll help that just a little bit. And again, with the salad here, you don't want to crush this. You're just going to take it nice and light. That's why they call it tossed, not mashed or smashed or anything like that. Just to sort of cover the leaves. You know, you don't want to have them swimming in the oil, in the dressing. And again, I don't know if you can see this at the bottom, but there's very, very little liquid on there, and that's because the leaves have grabbed that, what I did put in there. And the bit of oil actually helps coat that, and it makes it a little bit shinier more than anything else, and a little bit of flavor as well. We're going to take that, shake it off a little bit, get it onto the plate. You talk about a quick one here. There we go. So now this is something just by my training that I do, and that is I got to make things look pretty. And the better it looks, the easier it's going to eat. And by that, I just mean people are going to love it a lot more. So, you know, instead of just dropping them on there, do a nice little placement with the pear. You know, I did a little pinwheel thing here. You can line them up on here. You can actually set them off to the side, whatever you want to do there. Raisins, same way. We're just going to sprinkle a little bit of that over the top. And then we'll take the pork. The reason it's called warm salad, this is the only thing that's warm out on it. But we have to say that. So off we go. 3 pieces on there. And again, this is entree size. This is not something you're going to eat before you eat dinner, huh? Please. Otherwise I get kicked out of my job for that. Last but not least, a little bit of the blue cheese. And once again, you do not have to use blue cheese. Feta really works well in there if you like feta cheese. But again, most of these aged cheeses are going to be a bit stronger. So if you don't like the stronger flavor, you can just omit it and save yourself even more on the caloric side, on the nutrition intake. And that just goes on, as I said, it's just a teaspoon and a half, which is about that. You see, I didn't use any measuring cups. I never do. But by eye, that looks pretty cool. I didn't bring my red today. I could have put raspberries on here or something. So sorry about that. But that's it. You know, nice, simple. What would that take me? 10 minutes? I don't know, maybe less than that. Thank you very much.